No sleeper seats, that's a mattress. No sleeper seats, that's a mattress. You ain't stingy, split your tablets with me. You don't flinch when camera flashing. Not fake laid back, no, it's natural. And I think you made for the life I lead. I'm not fake patient, I don't fake sick. That kind of coffin don't need lean. Rest in peace, got this lust for life.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 5 of Two Black Nerds.
Yeah.
We back for another week, y'all. We got a lot to talk about. We got some really, I would say, quite controversial things to talk about this week.
This is true.
It's been a really interesting week at the movies. You know, some things have sort of happened with the most recent releases that have hit theaters. But we'll get into that shortly. But off top, you know, just got to take care of a few housekeeping things. Again, if you are not doing so, please follow us on social media on every platform at Two Black Nerds. That's Twitter and Instagram. We want to hear from you guys. We want you to tune into the conversation and really contribute your thoughts and ideas to the Two Black Nerds podcast. Also, you can follow us and listen to us on pretty much every platform you can get podcasts at this point. I think we're everywhere, man. I think we've run the gamut. I don't think we gotta wait for any more approvals or anything. Like we're pretty much everywhere. So please, follow, subscribe, leave us a rating too. That would be helpful.
Oh, please, something nice on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah. Like something a nice comment. Maybe 5 stars.
Maybe that's if you feel compelled.
All right, that would actually be really nice. That would make us happy because that does help. That helps with visibility and all of those good things. So yeah, definitely follow us and subscribe to us, please. Also, again, we just launched the YouTube channel recently. You can subscribe to us on YouTube as well. But we're here, man. We're pretty much everywhere. Last week's episode was interesting. I mean, we talked about TV and music. It was kind of leaning heavy to those topics, but it was interesting. I mean, it was a lot of black content. We brought the blackness to it for real. Between the music and the TVs with like Raising Dion and Watchmen and black women in comic book content. I really enjoyed last week's episode and the stuff that we talked about. So
for sure,
it was really good stuff. And we're always coming to you each and every Tuesday with Two Black Nerds. Like I mentioned off top, we have some interesting topics this week to talk about. We'll be talking about the brand new film Harriet, which was just released this past Friday in theaters, November 1. Highly anticipated biographical film about the legendary Harriet Tubman. We'll also be talking about Terminator Dark Fate, which is like the 12th Terminator sequel at this point. Like, they've made quite a lot of them, and we have another one. So we will be talking about Terminator Dark Fate. Did it deliver? Did it not? Also, we saw Dr. Sleep, and we got a chance to see it early. That was
a week ago.
Yeah, it was a week ago.
It was a whole week ago.
And it was at a different theater than we typically go to, but it was cool. It was cool, man. It was a cool place, cool theater to go to. Nice to switch it up every now and then. But we will be talking about Dr. Sleep for you horror movie fans out there. So that will be interesting to dive into. Also, the late great John Witherspoon. We will be discussing his life and legacy.
Yes.
As you probably know, he passed away last week at the age of 77. He had a huge impact on black comedy as a whole, I would say. And so we're definitely going to talk about his life and legacy a little bit later on in this episode. And then also we have a lot of other topics to get to, such as Dolomite Is My Name, which has dropped on Netflix. We're going to be talking about all of the money that Joker is making. I mean, it's making all the money. Like
all of it.
Like
that ain't no joke.
It ain't leaving no money for nobody else.
It ain't no joke.
None at all. And we're gonna talk about that. We also are gonna talk about a sequel was just recently greenlit for a highly anticipated comic book movie. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 2 is coming, y'all.
Boy.
It's official. It's coming in 2022. We're going to talk about our thoughts with that. And then we got a few video game trailers. I know we haven't really gotten a video game so far on the show, but we will be talking about the brand new trailers for Overwatch 2 and Diablo 4.
Oh, man.
Those were incredible. We just watched them. So we're going to get into those later. But off top, we're going to be talking about Harriet, like I mentioned. brand new biographical film. It's directed by Casey Lemons, who is a St. Louis native. I did not know this, but I just recently found that out doing research for the show. Casey Lemons is a St. Louis native. She directed the film. It's written by Gregory Allen Howard and Casey Lemons. They co-wrote the script, starring Cynthia Erivo, Leslie Odom Jr., Joe Alwyn, and Janelle Monáe. This movie, man. We saw a trailer a long time ago. I feel like we've been waiting on it quite a while. I've heard a lot about it. I know a good amount of people who have seen it already, like prior to like the wide theatrical release.
Yeah.
And so it's already had like, I would say, a really positive word of mouth,
No, for sure.
Yeah, you look at Rotten Tomatoes, we're talking 97% from the audience. We're talking an A+ cinema score. Like, that's really, really positive stuff.
People clearly like this movie.
They do. So my expectations were quite high going into the theater to see the movie, I would say. I was certainly interested on the take and sort of the perspective that the movie would take. So I was really interested to see how it would go. Yeah. And we saw the movie, and we have a lot, I think, to get into in terms of the quality of the film.
There's a lot.
But then there's also a lot surrounding the film too, right? True. There's a lot of I would say controversy, for lack of a better term, about things involving the film. So let's just get right into it, man. Harriet, let's hear your thoughts, bro. What are the thoughts on this film?
Man, do we want the good or the bad first?
You know what? Let's start with the good stuff. Let's start positive with it.
There's a lot of things that this movie did right for me, in terms of just the exploration of such a hero in our culture, right? Specifically, the way Black people look at the history of slavery. This is like the hero. Like, to this day, besides maybe Frederick Douglass, right? This is the name that I hear the most.
Very true.
All the time. It's Harriet Tubman, Harriet Tubman, Harriet Tubman. Of course, like I said, some Frederick Douglasses in there, some Sojourner Truths in there, you know what I mean? But this is the one that we hear the most. She was about to be put on the 20.
Oh yeah.
The Tubman was
the $20 bill.
And technically it ain't over, but y'all boy Trump done push that back a little bit.
He put a wait list on that one. So we'll see.
But the reasons that this film works for me, right, is that it realistically depicts not just the realities of slavery, but also what it took to achieve freedom, right? And in this realm of Harriet Tubman, in her case, it was force, right? A lot of the things that Harriet Tubman did, in a lot of the ways that she kind of guided, I guess, her journey was all through force, right?
Sure.
It reclaims the history of Black women as a means of resistance by any means necessary, right? Harriet Tubman, this movie shows us that Harriet Tubman did whatever she had to do, and not just for herself, right? This is another example of Black women never being selfish, right? They always want to go back and help other people. And again, it's another thing I loved about this film. This film was probably the first time that I've seen, anybody has ever seen a Black woman in this historical context do something so amazing and it be true and real, right. And we know this actually happened, right? Like, this ain't like, I think that
no debate,
no
denying it happened.
Yeah, we know this happened.
Yeah,
it's honestly just amazing. This is a movie that said that even though we can't control the circumstances to which we were born into, right, but we can control the circumstances to what we do once we get there. Totally. Once we are born.
Totally.
Yeah, that's what I really loved about the movie.
Yeah. I would echo, all of those things. I guess just to add on top of what you said, what I really liked in particular, that I did not expect to see, was how much of Harriet's spirituality and faith sort of led that journey. It was very much rooted in her strong belief and faith that no matter what the circumstance or the obstacle was, that she could overcome that situation. Yeah. And I really liked that they always brought it back to that throughout the film. I really appreciated that. I think particularly in slavery movies, or movies based on that time period, we haven't really seen that perspective. Yeah. And I think it provides an interesting way to sort of look at it, and I really like that, and I also appreciated that I didn't notice this really until after we saw it and I thought about it a little bit more, how this movie is not rated R. It's actually PG-13.
Which is crazy.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and like when you typically see movies based on slavery, they almost have to be rated R just because of the sheer brutality that takes place. You know, the things that actually did occur to people during that time. There's almost no way that you can depict that without showing, you know, the brutal aspects of it, right? Which can become very graphic.
Right.
But the thing that this movie does, it doesn't focus on the brutality in that sense. I think when it looks at brutality, it looks at it from a bit of a different point of view,
Right.
Such as, you know, families being torn apart, right?
Yeah.
People not having their story told, losing their history. And that in itself can be, you know, brutal. That can be considered brutality.
We
right?
didn't have to see somebody get whipped for the umpteenth time.
Yeah.
And then, you know what I mean? Like, and I think that's okay.
Yeah, no, exactly. It really is, because like everybody's experience during that time, though we weren't there, I think it's safe to assume it's not like a monolith. Everybody's experience is not the same, right? And so the fact that it did take this approach where it doesn't focus on physical violence as much, I really appreciated that, because also this is a movie that you could take somebody that's a little bit younger too. You know, you wouldn't take like a 7-year-old to it, but you could probably take like a 12, 13-year-old, you know, or maybe even an 11-year-old kid to see it. Like it,
Right.
you know, for the most part, I think it's okay. Like there's some physical violence, but it isn't so much so that I feel like it takes away from the actual message of the movie or what's happening on screen. So I really appreciated that, and it didn't focus on the physical violence as much. So
For sure.
you know, those things I really liked, and I think, you know, for what it's worth, you know, we'll talk a little bit about the casting a little bit later. I do think that the cast, also part of the movie, did a really good job.
Yeah,
I
really do.
Yeah, I think Cynthia Erivo did a really good job. I really enjoyed Janelle Monáe and Leslie Odom Jr. I think both of them did incredible. I mean, so, you know, those are like some of the things that I think they really sort of nailed out of the park with the movie, and worked particularly well for me.
I think they also did good where how you said they didn't have to necessarily show like the brutality, right? Also think they did a good job of showing certain ideas about black women slaves in this time, right? How like also in the 19th century where there was apparently this science they came up with, right? Where it was built around this truth that the female sex thought from their uteri.
Right, yeah.
Like what?
Which, yeah.
First of all, it's insane, and not their brains. Yeah. And so, like, a lot of people didn't believe that a woman was capable of doing the things Harriet Tubman did. That's a dope idea to explore.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Instantly, it's like I've in my mind, I've never seen that in any other movie.
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
like,
we don't hear about it at all.
You
really,
don't hear about
so yeah.
Or even how we never talk about how Harriet Tubman was illiterate her whole life, right?
Yeah.
And even though she was illiterate her whole life, she couldn't read. That she was a brilliant thinker.
Yes.
And she understood military strategy, ecology, geography, and just honestly just civil rights law in general. She understood and knew exactly what it meant.
Yeah.
That's the definition of a true American hero. If you want to know what America is, it's Harriet Tubman.
Absolutely. I mean, that speaks to the point. Like in the movie, there's we sort of get to meet this coalition of like free black people, you know, that are they're working to, you know, free slaves and also to document their
Underground
history.
Railroad, bro.
Yeah, like that stuff I think is really powerful. Again, you know, stuff that we typically don't see in movies based on slavery, right? Like we actually sort of see a bit of the other side where, you know, these groups did exist. There were, you know, even outside of Harriet, there were other people working towards this cause, right?
Yeah.
And so I think overall it was a really job well done to sort of, you know, depict those things on screen. So I mean, those are a lot of good things I think about the movie. Now, what did not work quite as well? Because I know after we saw the movie, we definitely had a conversation about some things that we saw, and we were like, I don't know about that. Like, what could have been better in the movie? What didn't work for you?
Man, I this may sound nitpicky. I'm not sure, but y'all know I'm a man of music, and the score in this movie is just atrocious. It's not so like
atrocious.
So it's pretty bad. Like there's of course, there's songs associated with the movie, right? Those songs are amazing. Like, there's a couple Cynthia Erivo songs, and you know what I mean, here and there. But the timing and some of the songs they use in some scenes make zero sense to me.
Yeah, I question the timing a lot because I'm like, man, this scene did not need any music.
There'll be a scene that you'd be like, that scene would have been good if this loud ass violin wasn't playing in the background, or you know, you're just like, what is going on?
Right, and sometimes less is more.
And it happened all the time.
Yeah.
And it could have had better sound design for sure, or soundtrack.
That's a legitimate criticism, though. I mean, I don't know if people realize, like, what you do with your score and things like that, it's really important to the making of a movie. Like, it could really make or break a scene, you know, if you don't incorporate it at the right time, or if you don't do it properly, or if it throws off the tone of the scene that you're trying to convey. Like, music is actually super important. So, I mean, I think that's a valid, criticism of the movie.
Yeah, for sure. Another thing that for me could have been better is an actual a little more realism in terms of exploring Harriet Tubman's psyche, right? Like, the person she is. I wanted to know a little bit more about who Harriet Tubman was. Like, I got some facts here and there, but I didn't get anything that I just like. I felt like I walked away from that movie knowing who Harriet Tubman was.
Sure.
It made me feel like, I don't know if is it because she's just the movie's hard to live up to that legend of Harriet Tubman.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but it just felt a little shortchanged in that way.
Yeah. No, that's actually something, like, throughout the film, I also sort of made a note of that because, I was just thinking of other, like, biographical films that have come out, and I think some of the better ones, you really get a lens into who the individual was, and you tend to learn things that you might not have known about before.
Yeah.
And it sort of subverts your expectations a bit about the individual because you get a bit of a deeper look than any sort of textbook could tell you, any sort of Google search or Wikipedia page could tell you.
Yeah.
Didn't walk away feeling that way about this movie, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I necessarily walked away knowing really any more about her as a person than I did going in. Like,
right.
I mean, I knew the broad strokes of, like, the story just based off of what they tell you in school. And I think, we got a little bit of insight into the family structure and how that works. But really beyond that, not sure any more development was given to I think, specific things about her, which I don't know what necessarily could have helped that. Maybe it was just a different structure of the movie. I'm not advocating that it should have been longer. I think the 2-hour time limit or the time length was fine, but I did walk away kind of feeling a little empty. Like, I didn't quite get much from it, or as much as I thought I would.
There's this other section of the movie of injustice they could have explored, right? Where you have Harriet Tubman, who led a battle at the Combahee River, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she was the first woman ever to lead an expedition that was armed, which they just throw in there, right?
Yeah, that was strange.
But it was like, that's what I want to see.
Yeah, I thought that was going to be a really big moment.
I want to see that.
And they blew right past that.
But there's like this thing where eventually she wasn't mentioned in newspapers at first, right? Like, they would do a description and say it was led by this black woman, until this black writer was like, no, this is my friend. Like, I'm putting her in this newspaper.
She gonna make it in this paper.
Yeah, she's making it in this paper. And again, at this time, around the time of where we get the Emancipation Proclamation, right? We have Abraham Lincoln, who was setting out like concrete spaces for black men in their recognition in military service, where there wasn't really a vision for the work of women who function in the military, who bearing arms, right? Particularly women, and definitely not black women.
Right.
And so Harriet Tubman eventually got this pension, right? But it wasn't even because she did this great thing in the Civil War. It was just because she was married to this black man after the war, and she became a widow. That's the only thing she got.
Yeah.
That was like an injustice I wish people would talk about, right? That's
Yeah.
like something, I don't know. I feel like that's some quiet, shady shit.
Right. Well, I mean, I think that's, it kind of speaks to sort of a problem. You'll always run into these, biopics. There's only so much time and so many things that you can communicate with the length of the movie that you have, right? So it's like, what are you going to choose to document, to cover in your movie?
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to try to, convey to people with the time that you have? Which, I think typically like biographical films, like they almost always have such an uphill battle, because I think a lot of filmmakers take the approach of trying to tell a lot of story and cover a lot of ground,
Yeah.
which might not be the best, way to go about it. Maybe you pick, something a little bit more specific to the person, maybe a specific event, maybe if that battle was sort of more of a focal point, and we talked about the planning around that and what that looked like, and that was sort of the centerpiece of the movie, then maybe we could have had a little bit more time to explore, some of these other things in depth. But I think they tried to cover a lot in a short amount of time. And,
Yeah.
With somebody like Harriet Tubman, who has done an inexplicable amount of work, it's almost impossible. If not just, flat out impossible.
In my mind, honestly, I wouldn't have been mad if they focused on certain things, and you just give us 2 movies.
Yeah.
Just give us a sequel.
Mm-hmm.
I'd go see it. It's Harriet Tubman.
Yeah.
Who, like, it's Harriet Tubman.
Sure.
This ain't like your normal, I don't know, random historic figure. This is Harriet Tubman. Like, I would have been okay. I really would have.
Well, we certainly, I think, with sort of what we're talking about now, we have to talk about the controversy around the movie. We have to talk about some of the conversations that are happening, what people are talking about. I personally had people, after I saw the movie, hit me up and said to me, I refuse to see this. Like, it's cool that you saw it. What did you think? Whatever. But they personally refused to see it for numerous reasons. One of them being Cynthia Erivo. There's a couple of things, really.
Yeah.
There's the aspect of her being British and Nigerian, and she's playing, an African American individual. So we're talking about, the casting and the choice to not utilize an African American woman to play this role, and instead going to somebody who is not, from here. But then there's also, like, we had it happen again. Somebody dug up some old tweets from her, from some things that she said a few years ago, and that's come to light. She was talking about the way people speak or something like that.
Yeah, so she kind of made this joking tweet. She was talking to some friend, and she was like, something in my black girl voice.
Yeah, right. My ghetto voice.
Yeah, my ghetto voice is what she
what it
said.
was,
In my ghetto voice. Yeah, Cynthia Erivo has been.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's
She's
rough.
been doing this back and forth thing on social media where, one, she doesn't seem to recognize the difference between the lived experiences of African Americans and herself. And she also associates with a lot of people from Nigeria or West African who often also talk down on African American people, and she never disassociates herself with those people. And so we have like this balancing game going on of she just does these things. I actually have a tweet right here, right?
Got a receipt.
She said, "I don't think it's different to be a black girl in England than it is to be a black girl in America. We all collectively share in pain of a displacement and not feeling like we, quote unquote, belong places."
Okay, but that's just not true.
Man.
It's just not true.
Yep. So, yeah.
I'm sorry. Like, I think I understand the intention of why she said that.
Yeah.
I also saw an interview with her. She was on Hot 97, and she was talking about how she has experienced, racism or discrimination because she's darker, right?
Yeah.
Sure,
That's
totally.
the thing.
Yeah, like I totally that is real. That does happen, but to compare the experiences of, black women that live in a country outside of America, like, the United Kingdom or wherever, versus black women that live here. I mean, that's just, no, you really can't, especially if, again, like you mentioned, that's not a lived experience that you can actually speak to.
Right.
So how would you know something like that, right? Like,
yeah, of course, the most disrespected woman in the world is the black woman, right?
Yeah.
But their experiences are still different.
yeah.
And it's like she doesn't understand that, especially like she always shields herself with, this like we're all black thing.
Yeah.
But she only does it when it's convenient.
Yep.
Versus when she specifies this ghetto caricature, right, that she puts on to her white counterpart on Twitter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was just a bad choice, right?
Yeah, and it's like, it's not even like, this isn't even about like guilt by association. It's about choices.
Yeah.
It's about the choices that you are making. You choose what company you keep and continue to keep. You choose what you don't distance yourself from or what you do distance yourself from. And you choose who and what is owed an explanation and apology, right?
Yep.
And who and what is worthy of promoting and who is worthy of defending. And she chooses wrong a lot.
Yeah. Like consistently has, like every time I see her, either respond to a statement or she's a part of an interview, it's like, like you're not totally ignorant or anything like that. Like I'm not accusing her of that. I think she makes points, but I don't know. It's not always the most well-informed point that I think she's making sometimes in response to some of these things, right?
Yeah, so if you search the hashtag ADOS on Twitter, it is crazy. ADOS is literally an acronym for American Descendants of Slavery. And which is crazy because like half of them are about Harriet. Just as one hashtag. Wow. You can either just type in Cynthia Erivo, Harriet, or again, hashtag ADOS, and you're going to see a lot of tweets from some angry people about this woman.
Yeah, it's a lot going out there. The other sort of controversy surrounding this movie. I mean, I can't even classify this as a spoiler per se because it is all over the internet. People have been talking about it, and it's not. I don't think it's been hidden either. It might be a part of the trailers, but in the movie, one of the main antagonists.
Yeah, that's important.
Is a black bounty hunter.
Also known as slave catchers at this time.
Interesting choice. That one of the main antagonists is a black bounty hunter. This is also a fictional character created for the intentions of this movie, according to a lot of people. That this is not actually somebody that knew Harriet or existed in this time or is a part of the story.
In her story, probably not.
Right. And that's not to say that black bounty hunters or slave catchers didn't exist.
Which they did.
They did exist. There is like, stories and testimonies about that. But for this particular story, it seems as if this specific character was created, which got a lot of people tight. It got a lot of people tight because it's like, okay, we finally have a movie about Harriet Tubman, one of the most legendary and iconic black historical figures ever, and we're going to tell her story through a movie, and we're going to use, the sins of slavery, which obviously was created and manufactured by white men and women at that time.
Right.
However, in this movie, one of the main villains is going to be a black bounty hunter. Understandably, if you ask me, that got a lot of people upset.
Yeah,
right?
it did.
Because you're talking about like the historical accuracy or inaccuracy of like what's going on at that time, and also the perception.
So I guess it's one of those conflicting things in my mind, only because, so of course we know it didn't happen in Harriet's story, but we do know that is very potential that, again, these black slave catchers did exist, right? Here's this quote from Joshua Rothman, who is the chair of the University of Alabama History Department, who said there were surely black slave catchers. It would be tricky for such people to operate in the South itself because in most parts of the South, whites assumed all black people that they didn't know were slaves, and there are plenty of cases of free people taken into custody, thrown in jail, and sold as slaves themselves. But outside of the South, or even in border states, we know that rings of kidnappers used to free black people to lure in their prey, who were far more likely to trust a black person than a white person, and who wouldn't realize that they'd been duped until they were en route to being sold as a slave. And no doubt there were free black people who just decided to do the work themselves and keep all the reward money. So this happened a lot in the South, which we see she wasn't that far in the South though,
right? No,
which is is a small historical inaccuracy, right? Like if she was deeper, farther south, this would make so much more sense,
right?
But because we know she wasn't that deep south, it's still like right? It's like they were trying to just show people that these people did exist.
Yeah.
But maybe they just did the wrong movie, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe it's just the wrong time. And yeah.
Yeah, it's like I don't know if this story is what needed that, right?
Exactly.
Especially like in the movie. I mean, it's an interesting choice. Even how that Black Bounty Hunter, how his story plays out, like in the movie, like it's just it was interesting, and I think it sort of left me scratching my head afterwards. Like you mentioned, they did exist. This is something that has been proven, but it is all about like time and place and like where does it make sense to include that. And sort of
although
thing.
I don't agree with it, I will say people are definitely overreacting.
Yeah.
I will, because...
Well, I mean, with anything these days, right, there's typically overreaction.
It is insane. Because the message behind the movie is more powerful than the controversy of the film to me, right?
Yeah.
Like, there were... my favorite part of the movie... Well, you know what I mean? I mean, people can say Cynthia Erivo this or black man slave catcher that, but it was really like the claps and the tears from the other black women in the crowd that I seen in the theater that really made this movie worth it to me. Like, you could be mad at all the controversy in the world, but to be able to convey and understand that emotion with the other people in that theater was way more powerful to me. Like, that you have to be there, right? That's the only thing. That's how I can explain it.
Yeah. By the end of it, I mean, it is a moving experience to sort of sit through and see unfold. So
there was snapping and clapping.
Yeah, it was all of that. So I think as a film, like it is important, and I think it's gonna do more good than harm ultimately. And I think it's important that we finally have something for Harriet Tubman, since she's so talked about and has been the most talked about when it comes to like Black historical figures. So, and I mean, over the weekend it made $12 million opening weekend, which surpassed expectations.
It's doing amazing.
It's doing really well, and the budget was 17. So I mean, it's doing good, and it's like holiday season. I think more and more people are gonna go see it. Like Thanksgiving is approaching, Christmas is approaching, so I think more people will sort of go out to see the movie. So I mean, I think that's a good thing. I do like there are things here and there that you can obviously point out as being like, okay, maybe this wasn't the best choice to make, right? But it's not perfect. It is not perfect.
It's not.
I wouldn't expect it to be, but I do think that it is ultimately something that's beneficial for people to experience and see and also talk about, right? Like we can also debate these things as well as love them and enjoy them. So all of that's like really important to remember about this experience.
Shout out to Janelle Monáe.
100%. Always.
Forever
and always. Ooh, well, we spent a lot of time talking about Harry. There was a lot to unpack, so we kind of we really had to dive deep into that. If you have not seen the movie, you should go check it out so you can dive into the conversation. Let us know your thoughts on Harriet. We're going to move on to the next movie that we saw. Also has its own fair share of controversy. Terminator Dark Fate.
Oh, boy.
This is now the 5th Terminator sequel to come out. The original Terminator was a groundbreaking film. It really made Arnold Schwarzenegger superstar.
Yep.
It made James Cameron's career. If you don't know James Cameron, he directed T2. He directed Avatar. He directed Titanic. So
and Alien.
You should know James Cameron. This edition of Terminator Dark Fate was directed by Tim Miller, the director of Deadpool. So good director, I would say. It was written by David Goyer, Justin Rhodes, and Billy Ray, and it brought back Linda Hamilton, Arnold Schwarzenegger from the original movies, and we also, adding to the cast, have Mackenzie Davis, Natalia Reyes, Gabriel Luna, and Diego Boneta. So it has a pretty impressive cast. This movie...
his real name was Diego. Is that who I think it is, Diego?
I think so. Yeah, I think yeah, for sure. So, this movie, trailers came out earlier this year. We started to hear about it like about a year ago. Like, Linda Hamilton returns to the franchise. She hasn't been back since T2. So we're gonna get into the movie. I will give a heads up that I think in order to talk about some of these things involving the movie, some of the controversy around the movie, we're gonna have to do some slight spoilers. So we will have just a couple of things that we talk about that might be slight spoilers for the movie, but we will let you know when that happens. I think the thing that I really want to get into first, though, even before we talk about the quality of the film itself, this movie was a massive flop over the weekend.
Oh, the box office did terrible.
It's actually atrocious. Like, it is flop of epic proportions. So
Wow.
this movie cost between $185 and $196 million.
Jesus Christ.
Why a Terminator movie needs to cost that much, I don't know.
I don't know.
What's interesting about that, though, is that when T2 originally released in 1991, it was the first movie to ever cost $100 million.
Which makes sense.
Which at the time, there was cutting-edge technology.
Yeah,
it was doing some groundbreaking stuff. Yeah, like it did some stuff that had never been done before. And even though it cost that much, it certainly made it back in spades. It was a hugely successful movie. But almost $200 million that we're talking about for the budget. So over the weekend, in the United States, it debuted to $29 million. And it had a worldwide opening of $123.6 million. Now, if you don't know box office, most movies make most of their money in the first weekend.
Yeah.
It is extremely rare. It pretty much never happens where a movie makes more money over the course of second or third weekend, right? So this is the lion's share of the money that it'll make. Deadline is reporting that ultimately it will need $470 million to even break even, which is not happening.
Ain't nobody getting paid.
It's not happening. It's going to lose money. All outlets are reporting, Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, they're reporting that this movie will probably end up losing about $120 million.
Wow.
And that's taking into account production costs as well as marketing. So this is a massive failure on all fronts financially, right? Mm-hmm. Which is interesting because it did well with, critics and audience scores. Like, it didn't do terrible. It actually has good word of mouth.
It's a decent movie.
It's a decent movie. A lot of people, when they saw it, said that this is easily the best Terminator sequel since T2, which is a low bar, but it's still positive, right?
Still positive.
Yeah. I want to ask you, what do you think these box office numbers say about not only this movie, but this franchise and where we are? Because to come in so low, so just extremely low, where this franchise has typically been a pretty decent moneymaker.
Yeah.
But to come out and just make only $29 million in the States, and like you cost, like the spending was almost 200. That's just it blows my mind. Like, what's the cause of this? Like, why didn't people go see this movie?
Track record. Simple as that. If 3, 4, and 5, 3 Salvation and Genesis.
Genesis, whatever.
I don't even think it was 3 in Salvation. I think it was Genesis by itself.
Really, that one was.
I think Genesis was that bad.
Yeah,
that people were over it, and even then it was hanging on by a thread. Right? Yeah. There's actually a group of people out there who say Salvation. There's like a small community of people who are like, this movie isn't the most amazing, but people really think it's underrated a little bit.
Sure.
A lot of people were like, man, Salvation really, it was like, they went back and watched it and they're like, man, Salvation really isn't as bad as people say it is.
Right.
But Genesis.
Yeah.
Just, goodness.
It
just threw the ball out the window.
Let me tell you, I went and saw that movie. I will never forget. 2015, it was July. Going into it, I saw those trailers and I was like, this is going to be bad. Like, you knew it was going to be bad.
I ain't even watch it.
And
I ain't never seen the damn movie.
And listen, don't watch it. When I went to go see that movie, oh my goodness, when I walked out, my head hurt. I thought what I had saw on screen was just, it was an abomination of how bad it was, right? Mm-hmm. I completely agree with you. Track record is
that's it.
The number one key indicator as to why this did not succeed. It has been proven time and time again, especially over these past couple of years, if you continue to put out mediocre content for audiences, they will stop showing up.
Yep.
Like, at first, you might put out a bad movie and a lot of people go see it, but that might just be off of the strength of the previous movies. Mm-hmm. But that next movie after the bad movie is what's going to be affected by it. We've seen it with X-Men. Apocalypse came out.
Oh, man.
Made decent money, but nobody liked it. So you roll out Dark Phoenix, lowest grossing X-Men movie in the franchise. Same thing happened with Transformers. I remember Transformers 4, what was it? The one with Mark Wahlberg?
The first one with Mark Wahlberg?
Yeah, the first one with Mark Wahlberg.
The dinosaurs.
Yeah, the dinosaurs. Age of Extinction.
That's it.
That made $1 billion.
That movie was terrible.
Trash movie. Awful movie, right? It made
terrible.
$1 billion, right? However, it made $1 billion because the previous movie was actually kind of good. It was okay, right?
Yeah, I like that one actually.
Yeah, Dark of the Moon. That was
better
actually,
than the second one.
That was actually. Oh, listen. it just shows like, oh yeah, the next movie that came out, which was the 5th one, I didn't even go see that movie. It definitely made significantly less money, right? So it just time and time again, audiences have proven you burn us once, all right, you got us this time, but you're not gonna get us again, right? You're not gonna get my pockets again. So I agree. Also, the only other thing that I would add to that, why I think nobody wants to go see this, we've seen this movie before.
Yeah.
This movie is not really any different than Terminator or Terminator 2.
Also, we seen the whole movie in the trailer.
That too, but this movie is no different. The plot. If you've seen Terminator or Terminator 2: Judgment Day,
Same movie.
it is the same movie. The plot is the same. Guess what? A Terminator from the future goes to the past
to do what?
To kill a person to prevent them from becoming basically the leader of the resistance against this big, corporation that controls cyborgs and technology in the future. It's to prevent.
It's Skynet 2.
Yeah, which I also have to say. So, okay, wait a second. You just now I'm on fire right now that you just said that. So, Skynet has to be the dumbest organization ever, because if you watch this movie, something happens in the movie that makes you question what was the purpose of the movies that I watched before this, right? Spoilers if you've not seen Terminator Dark Fate. If you've not seen the movie, please just, either go see the movie, come back to the podcast, fast forward. We're going to get into a slight spoiler right now. It's going to be about 2 or 3 minutes. In the beginning of the movie, in the first opening minute,
man.
John Connor is killed, which is it's a de-aged Edward Furlong who played John Connor in T2. Yeah. So it looks just like him. They de-aged Edward Furlong, they de-aged Linda Hamilton and Arnold Schwarzenegger. He dies in the first minute of the film because Skynet decided to send back more than one Terminator to kill him. Yep. So though he was not killed in the first 2 movies,
apparently there was another one this whole time.
Apparently it was another roaming around that showed up 6 years after the first one, because the second one, because the second one is in 91. He shows up in 98, blows him away at a pizzeria,
and that's it.
I ask you, what was the point of T2? Why did we follow him the entire movie? Why should we care about John Connor in T2 when we know that this movie is going to kill him? Also, Skynet, why not just send back 100 Terminators if that was what you were going to do to begin with? Send back 100 Terminators in the first Terminator.
That's all you had to do.
To kill Sarah Connor. Yeah. Why take any chances,
Talking about something. He been there the whole time.
It's bullshit. That's what I call
me that. We went through this whole Terminator 2 movie, and this nigga was just walking around.
Just chilling, right?
Just somewhere off the camera.
And it took him 7 years to find him. I thought these were supposed to be, enhanced with the greatest technology, the most advanced weapons, and it took them 7 years to find them. On top of the fact that it virtually makes your prior movies almost useless, right? So I will say that's made a lot of people angry, and that actually made me it was really jarring to see that in the beginning. And I was like, what?
I was like, this what we doing?
How does that make sense? Why should I even care about any movie? Ultimately, the timeline is just fucked completely at this point. Terminator's timeline is awful.
It's just they just toe up.
Beyond that, I thought the movie was decent.
It wasn't decent. It was beyond that. It was a really, really fun movie.
Yeah, it was fun. We just had to get past that ridiculous thing because it was just, it doesn't make any sense. But if you get past it, the movie is kind of decent.
It's a fun movie.
Yeah, it's a fun movie.
Part of me wishes though that Linda Hamilton was the star of the movie.
Yeah, yeah.
She was just dope.
She was amazing.
But I was like, oh, she's back again.
Yeah.
I would rather for her to be the star. Yeah. And then you make it really, really good, right? Because we know her character. But it would have been cool to see how her character changed from her point of view, and then or just you know what I mean, first person. This is her story. Yeah. But also, it would have been cool if they introduced the other characters to maybe pass on the torch for future Terminator movies if this one was good enough, right?
Yeah, right.
That's all you had to do was make a really bomb Linda Hamilton with some cold ass supporting characters.
Yeah, because the supporting cast is actually good. Like I thought Mackenzie Davis, she was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
I thought she was kicking all sorts of ass. She was dope.
Yep. Natalia Reyes did a good job.
Reyes did a really good job.
She's the breakthrough.
Yeah, I thought she did amazing. Even Gabriel Luna as like the new Terminator, he was sick.
He was.
He was sick.
Like, I like this guy.
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, he reminded me of like Arnold, like just relentless, unstoppable force of nature. Nothing can prevent him from accomplishing his mission. Like, he was a badass. So I think the supporting cast, like, all the pieces were there. The problem is, like, though it's a fun movie, though it's enjoyable, again, I think you walk away feeling like, all right, that was cool, but I've seen this movie before. We've been here before. There isn't any new territory that we've walked down. And I think, to your point about Terminator Salvation, a lot of people like that movie because it is the most different from the rest of the movies. It did do something different. It wasn't a time travel story of like, let's send back this resistance fighter to save Sarah Connor or John Connor so that Skynet doesn't do X, Y, and Z, right? Salvation didn't really do that. So it's different enough. So I can understand that, but this didn't change up the formula at all.
It also did this like really weird thing in the middle where like it started to feel like some attempt to explore feminism.
Yeah.
But written by a man.
Yeah. Yeah, wholly written by a man, which is like,
you're like, this ain't your avenue, bro.
Yeah, like you shouldn't be. I don't think this is really your strength.
Yeah, like
man.
Artie, for me, as many women that was on the screen, I was already happy.
Yeah. I
was like, this is feminism as it gets.
Yeah, I mean, also, that certainly. I mean, also the Hispanic representation too, like with
amazing.
Natalia Reyes and Gabriel Luna, like they had some really. I thought that was like dope, and it's a shame too because like. You have like lead actors and actresses, who are Hispanic in this movie, but it's a huge flop. It's not going to make any money. And this is single-handedly, at least for the foreseeable future, it's going to kill the franchise. We're not going to get another Terminator movie for a generation.
I think the only way, the way you save this franchise, one, turn it into comic book content. This is what you do. You make some comic books, right? Then you do what you were doing earlier in the decade. You make a TV show,
Sarah Connor Chronicles, which actually did really well. It was
really
good.
Well.
It was a good show.
You go back, you know what I mean, to those sort of things, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you have Natalia Reyes star in this new Terminator show that actually happens in the future,
right?
You know what I mean? You start there.
You can see her story,
and you start there. You have this new world where you already know Skynet exists.
Right.
You're not trying to stop it. You're not trying. Ain't no Terminators trying to kill nobody no more. But you have a new world, right?
Right.
And I think that's how you do it. You make some comic books, and you get Natalia Reyes or somebody to head a new television series, and that's the way you move forward. You build up a hype, make it really good, and then ain't nobody wouldn't be mad at another movie, like you said, in another 7 years or something crazy, right?
Yeah.
But it could work.
Yeah, no, for real. Yeah, you gotta drum up excitement again about this franchise, this property, because right now it's clearly not there. Like, people are not gonna pay to see these movies anymore because for so long we just got so many bad sequels that just weren't worth the time or effort, and it was just like nothing is beating T2. Nothing is beating T2. Terminator 2 Judgment Day is the greatest sequel of all time. Nothing is beating T2. And so, like, you continuously have to go up against that. And I understand it's difficult because it is such a prestigious film and it's so widely considered as one of the greatest sequels ever made.
Yeah.
However, I don't think anybody's expecting any of these movies to surpass T2, but you got to make a good movie, right?
Just be good.
And it took you Terminator 2 came out in 1991.
Oh, Jesus.
It's 2019. It took you 28 years to make a movie that people actually respect.
Crazy.
As a sequel. You've had 4 sequels since then, and it took you 28 years. Crazy. That's just you're not building up goodwill with the audience. That's going to come back to bite you, which it certainly has. Massive flop. I hate to say it. It's not making any money. It's going to lose a lot of money.
Oh, well.
And it's really unfortunate, but
it is unfortunate.
That's what happens when you just make shitty movies. So
I'll be happy when this one comes out on DVD, though.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I'll watch this one a couple times.
I'll definitely watch it. Yeah, it's easy to go back to and watch it. I had a great time, especially like those first like 30 minutes. rocking and rolling. It was going crazy. Like
Yeah.
once we got past like the initial like sort
Yeah, the second
story
act was
setup.
like, I don't know.
Yeah, second act wasn't that great, but
It was cool.
them first like 30 minutes, and then even Arnold Schwarzenegger, I thought did a great job.
Oh, he did an amazing job.
He was amazing.
He was hilarious.
He was hilarious. Like we got back to like the real comedic timing that he had.
Remember, I was
right?
talking about well, we talked about this kind of off the podcast, but remember I was talking about bad fan service and good fan service.
Yeah.
They actually did good fan service
Really
in
good
this
fan
movie, and I
service.
was like, yes,
Yeah, because
Yes.
it's like Arnold is he's good at comedy,
Right.
And he's good at comedic timing, and like we really started to see that develop in T2. Like there were a lot of good comedic moments, and they really let that shine through in this one. Like there was some legitimately funny stuff like that he did, like his lifestyle, because this Terminator is the one that is like older, and so like he's sort of settled down. I won't get too much into it, but it's just it's hilarious. You
It's
just got to
funny.
see it, right? So I guess that's it on Terminator Dark Fate.
That's it, man.
If you can go see it,
If you ain't got nothing else to
if
do,
you ain't got nothing else
if
to
you
do-
done seen all these other movies that we've been talking about these past
Yeah.
couple weeks,
go see it.
then you can go see it.
I do think it's worth it, but I
Yeah.
mean, it's clearly not going to make too much. So I understand a lot of people will not go see it. So those are our thoughts on Terminator Dark Fate. Hit us up on social, leave a comment, subscribe, and let us know what you think of the movie if you get a chance to check it out. The next movie we're talking about is a horror movie, another sequel,
Ooh,
Dr. Sleep.
ooh,
Wow, Dr. Sleep has been highly anticipated.
yeah.
It is both an adaptation to the novel as well as a sequel, legitimate sequel to the Shining movie.
Yeah.
We saw it a little bit early. It's not officially released as of the release of this podcast. It's not officially come out. That's later this week.
Yeah, it will come out this Friday/Thursday.
Yep. Definitely go see that. It's directed and written by Mike Flanagan, who
Oh,
has
my
a long track record in the horror genre.
Wait, just real quick. So we was talking about James Wan the other day.
Yeah.
Mike Flanagan is right
He's
behind
right.
him.
He's right there. He's
He
absolutely
is
right
like
there.
knocking on James Wan
Yeah,
door.
he's
Like I'm
cold.
right next to you, bro.
Yeah.
Oh man,
He's
what
really
a,
good.
What a beast! A
Yeah.
lot of people don't know Mike Flanagan did the good Ouija. So there was Ouija 1, which
There was
is
a good one,
one of the
yeah.
worst movies I've ever seen. And then he came out with Ouija Origin of Evil, which
Yeah.
is just such a good movie.
Yeah.
He also did what does Mike Flanagan do?
He has quite a lot. He's actually
He
built
did
up quite a
Oculus.
resume. Oh yeah, he did do Oculus.
If you haven't seen Oculus,
Yeah.
just go. If you like anything that's weird
definitely
or a
see
horror
Oculus.
film is, just watch Oculus,
he
man.
did Hush.
Hush, Gerald's Game,
Gerald's
another
Game, yeah.
Stephen King adaptation.
Gerald's Game is actually, I think it's a really, really good movie. It's
People
on
love
Netflix.
Hush,
yeah.
too.
And
People
Hush, yeah,
love
Hush was good. Gerald's Game is on Netflix if you want to check that out. So he's familiar with Stephen King, obviously. So I
Right.
think he was, clearly a really good candidate to direct this movie. So
Yeah.
again, like I mentioned, Dr. Sleep is not only an adaptation of the novel, which is a sequel to the novel The Shining, but it's also more so a faithful sequel to the Shining film, which was directed by Stanley Kubrick and released in 1980, if
The
I'm
classic.
not mistaken. One of the greatest horror movies ever made. So Dr. Sleep is starring Ewan McGregor. He's also supported by Rebecca Ferguson and Cliff Curtis. I can't. What is the young girl's name in the movie?
Her name is Kylie Kern.
Kylie. Okay, so she we'll definitely talk about her. So
Oh, yeah.
we saw this movie, Dr. Sleep. I had not read the book, so I didn't know what to expect. This was brand
Same.
new to me, right? We saw the movie. It is quite long. I will say it's 152 minutes. So if you go see the movie,
Yeah, it is long.
strap in and get comfortable because there's a lot to get through. So Dr. Sleep is out. What are the thoughts on this film? Did it work as a follow-up to The Shining? Is it scary? How are the actors, the story, all of that good stuff?
I have a lot of different thoughts. I love this movie because it's not scary in terms of jump scares, right? It's scary to me in the sense of situation. It's scary to me in terms of what is there to lose. And I love that.
Yeah.
That's what makes this a horror. Like a lot of people put horror films in this jump category all the time, and it's wrong.
Horror can be so many things.
Horror can be so many things, and I think this movie did it very, very well. I knew it was never going to be The Shining,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
But honestly, I did hope for a little bit more. Again, I didn't read the book, so I did hope for a little bit more of a Shining feel to it
Yeah.
at first. I guess I'm a little conflicted, right? I'm a little hypocritical about this
Yeah.
because, again, although I loved how different it was, like again, one of my favorite things about this movie is like it's like in my mind it just happens to be in the Shining universe.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's like completely different.
Yeah.
But another part of me wished there was a little more Stanley Kubrick in the way that
Sure.
Mike Flanagan approached this, right?
Yeah.
Just, I mean, you know what I mean? Be your own director, but I just wish there was a little more Stanley Kubrick flavor in there.
Yeah. I you know, I'm of a similar mindset because I would say I'm also conflicted about it in a couple of respects. I will say I really like the movie. I
Yeah.
think it's a really good movie.
It's tight.
I think it's a really good movie. I think it's different
Yeah, this
than
movie's
any
tight.
other, horror movie that we have out now. I agree with your points about what it considers to be horror and how it decides to approach that, right? What I'm conflicted about is similar to what you mentioned, just in terms of it does enough to create its own identity. It does enough to be its own film and to not completely rely on what The Shining did for it.
Yeah.
However, there's also a certain portion of the film which leans completely into The Shining.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's this weird back and forth of like, you're your own movie. However, like, you also still have a lot of The Shining a part of you. And to be honest, like, I don't know if I'm upset about that, because if it didn't have any of The Shining in it, I would have been pissed.
Yeah, it's like I still needed that part of the movie.
Like, I would have been pissed if there was like really no connective tissue besides like Danny Torrance being like the focal point. If there was no other connective tissue, I would have walked out pissed. Like, so bro, y'all really didn't want to go to the Overlook? Like, y'all really didn't want to do that? I would have been mad. However, I will say that, like, it's tough. It's really tough because The Shining is such a well-defined classic film, and this movie, again, it is not only an adaptation of the book, but it is a sequel to the movie as well. It pays homage to both, right?
Yeah.
So we can't look at it strictly as an adaptation. So because of that, you do sort of expect to see more of that Shining flavor, more of that Stanley Kubrick flavor, more of like the music and the cinematography choices.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of that in there, but
Yeah.
it's not as strong or pervasive as it is in The Shining, right? So the feel of it, the tone of it, it sort of felt a little bit disconnected from that world that was set up. And I don't know if that was an intentional choice or if that's just strictly due to the fact that like 40 years have passed, right?
And,
So it's
and
like,
also that it could just be how Stephen King wrote the book.
yeah,
Like
that too.
the
Like,
book could just be like the movie. You know what I mean?
and I know
Like,
he really wanted to be faithful to the book too, and also sort of like walk back a couple of things that were done in the original movie. Like,
Yeah.
he sort of wanted to not fix them, but I think certain people and Stephen King himself were not satisfied with necessarily how the Shining movie played out, because there are some notable differences. So Mike Flanagan, I mean, he had a tough job, right? I mean,
He did.
It's a really tough job to be like, oh, I'm gonna make the sequel to one of the most well-known movies ever made, and I also want to sort of like tinker around with like some things that were made by one of the greatest directors. Like, he had a lot of things that he was trying to accomplish, right? So it's a tough job to begin with. With all of that said, though, I do think it's a really good movie. I really liked it. I think Ewan McGregor did amazing. I
Yeah.
really liked him as Danny Torrance. You saw all of the pain that he carried around, everything he dealt with as a child, that trauma that he carried.
It's Ewan McGregor, man.
It's him, man. I mean, like, come on, he's one of the best actors in the world, right?
Easy.
And like,
Yeah.
all of that stuff and the connection with his father Jack, and just how that played into his into how his life ended up. Like, I thought that stuff was really powerful. And then we got to talk about Kylie.
We gotta talk about Kylie
who
Curran,
was like
y'all.
the breakout
When
of this
I
movie.
say we're about to see so much more of this black girl,
Woo-hoo!
I don't even know how old she is. Kylie Curran is maybe 10, 11, 12.
Probably at most 12, right?
At most 12. She's like this 10, 11-year-old girl who steals the entire show of the movie.
100%.
And I just wanted more of her.
Yeah.
Even when she was off screen, I was like, "Well, please come back."
Yeah,
Because she is so charismatic. She doesn't even look like she's acting.
Right.
She just is like,
This is like really a lived
this
experience.
is her
like,
comfort zone.
Yeah, this is what she's
This is
going
where
through.
she lives, and I'm really excited to see where she goes.
Yeah, she's the young actress in the movie. Essentially, now she has like the ability known as The Shining, right?
Right.
She's sort of like
She shines.
and she can speak to people, through that way, and all these different things. And so she is pretty much standing toe to toe with Ewan McGregor in this film. But by God, I mean she really knocked it out of the park. I loved every scene that she was in.
Every scene.
I bought it. I believed her. I believed her fear. I believed her anxiety that she experienced. I mean, she just conveyed all of that so well. Like wherever they found her, please, like, put her in more stuff.
Put
like,
her in ASAP, everything, right? Because she beasted.
Yeah, she did really well. I also want to say Rebecca Ferguson too. Did a great job.
But
as Rose
again, that's another person that's just like, she know what she's doing.
You just expect that.
You just expect it nowadays.
Like, she did an incredible job. She's the antagonist, the villain in the movie. She plays Rose the Hat, and I think, like, she was a legitimate force. Like, she was certainly a threat to Danny Torrance and Kylie's character, Abra. Like, she really posed a legitimate threat, and, like, you believed it from early on. But you also, like, you understand the motivation behind why she did what she did. Like, you understand, like, why she, sort of took the approach. I mean, it was all about survival, really, right?
That's that Thanos right there.
Yeah. So
also shout out to Jacob Tremblay.
Yeah.
Because he's just been working.
He's been working a lot. Yeah, he's been in.
He's just a young. Yeah, he's just gonna grow up to be one of the greats too. Yeah, we see it.
Yeah, totally. I personally recommend Dr. Sleep. But as you mentioned earlier, this is not a movie that has like traditional jump scares that you might expect from a horror film. Like, it takes a much different approach, and I think that is large in part because of how Stanley King writes. That's his approach. Like, he has a very creative imagination, right? And so the things that he envisions and how filmmakers are able to bring that to the screen, like, it conveys it in such a way that you have to really sort of encompass and embody like what these characters are going through, because their horror and their lived experience in and of itself is a lot of what drives like the horror elements of the movie. That's really where the horror comes in, right? Like, Danny deals with alcoholism and alcohol abuse. Like, that could be horrific for people. Daddy. You know what I'm saying? Just like his daddy. So all of that stuff, I say all that to say, like, I definitely recommend it. It's great. Like, if you got the time to spare it, go check it out. And it's a horror movie. Like, we love horror.
I would recommend seeing The Shining first, though.
Yeah.
I feel like this is one of the ones I will say you will appreciate the movie 10 times more if you have seen The Shining.
Yeah.
There's just so many moments in it where you're just like, I'm happy I've seen the movie.
Yeah, you'll kind of be, I mean, you could probably get through it without seeing it, but I wouldn't recommend it. I would still
suggest it. Yeah,
I wouldn't recommend not seeing The Shining. Right. I would recommend at least seeing that movie before seeing this for sure. It'll certainly add a lot more context to everything that you see sort of unfold in the film. So those are our thoughts on Dr. Sleep. Check out the movie. It comes out this Friday, November 8th. It's a wide release. If you do see it, hit us up at Two Black Nerds. Let us know what you think. We're going to move on. A little bit of a sadder topic, unfortunately. As you very well should know, last week we lost the great John Witherspoon. He was 77 years old. What an icon, man. Has such an incredible career. Has played so many well-known roles that I think a lot of people have just grown up to love. I mean, he's been in the public consciousness for such a long time, So he began his career, really doing stand-up comedy in the 60s and 70s, and he made some really significant friends early on. Like, he made connections with Jay Leno and David Letterman and Robin Williams and Richard Pryor, and he even became a regular on the Richard Pryor show in the 70s. So he's been around for a while, more than I think a lot of people realize.
Yeah, man.
But then, of course, he went on to play really iconic roles for black films in Friday, in Boomerang, in the Boondocks, and in the Wayans Brothers.
All of these things.
He was just in so many great roles that, and he was so quotable, like, all the time, like, so many quotes.
He was actually, when I say he was part of my childhood, I mean, before I went to sleep, a lot of times, like every night, I would watch two shows, the Wayans Brothers and the Jamie Foxx Show.
Yep.
And when I say I used to watch the hell out these shows, y'all, before I went to sleep, that's what came on TV at the time.
Yep.
And I ain't gonna never forget, I was walking around the house going bang, bang, bang. And my mom was like, what are you doing? She was like, what are you? I was like, bang, bang, bang.
Like,
bang,
what are you saying right now?
Because I was super young too, right? I'm impressionable. She was like, what is going on? I'm not even sure she knew the context, but just, again, part of my childhood. So I got when the PSP first came out, I got it for Christmas.
Yeah.
You know the first thing I went and bought? Boondocks Season 1.
Hey,
I had Season 1 of the Boondocks on my PSP. People were jealous because I was in school with my PSP watching the Boondocks.
Yep.
And I still say things because of this man, right?
Yeah.
When I get a new pair of shoes, I still go, new shoes, new shoes.
Every time.
I got me some new shoes.
Every
I can't
time.
help it, right?
Yep.
And that's
Yeah,
I'm
so
hurt,
many
man.
things. 35, 45 minutes. Don't go in there. 35, 45 minutes. Just so many things.
I still say
man.
I always say hot sauce on my burrito, baby.
Every time. I'll say that randomly. I'm not even eating a burrito, and I'm like, hot sauce on my burrito, baby.
I still
like,
say
out
it.
of nowhere, man. He just said such ridiculous things that stuck with you,
Man.
and he's in these things, like he's in these movies and TV shows that are so rewatchable, right?
So rewatch. I done seen Soul Plane so many times.
Oh, so many times. I've seen Friday.
Oh my!
I've probably
goodness.
seen Friday more than any other movie I've ever watched. Just,
A
you
lot
know,
of us have.
noted, right? And so
Yeah.
you see that and you build up this relationship with him, but you also just inherently just take all of that with you every time. Like it's just like naturally in your head and you don't even think about it.
Yeah, I think he's my pop culture black idea of a grandfather. That's what I
100%.
think of.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, like a lot of the generation before us, it was Red Fox for them, right?
Yeah,
But for me, it's John Witherspoon.
Yeah.
Like that was that's my granddad. That's
Yeah.
legit my granddad.
Man.
Because that's all the characters he played, but that's also what he personified in his work, right? Like
Yeah.
that was. I feel like he was almost never playing a character. He was always himself.
Yeah.
In everything that he did.
That's why he was so good, right?
And that's why like Friday sticks with us so much, right? Like we feel like when he was telling Craig all these things, he was telling us all these things too.
Right.
Every time I
Damn.
come in the kitchen, you in the kitchen. Like
In the
you know-
goddamn refrigerator.
you know how many black people can
Yep.
quote that?
Yeah, all
It's
the time.
a
man.
whole nother level of just being iconic.
Yeah.
An
yeah.
actual icon. And your icon, he's our grandfather, bro.
No, he really is, man. It's a tremendous loss, man. It's a tremendous loss, and it's sad. I mean, he lived a long life, I would say, and
He
it was a
did.
meaningful life. It was a really
you
meaningful
can
life.
kind of tell his son, JD Witherspoon, is like he's more in a celebration mode, right? Because he just
Rightfully so.
rightfully so. We kind of found out. I don't know if this was recently or people always knew this. I just found out that John Witherspoon actually wasn't going to take Granddad at first.
Yeah, I think he revealed that today.
Today,
Yeah,
and JD said that he talked him into it.
Yeah, thank
and
goodness.
one, that's a good son, but two, just I can't even imagine who else would have done Granddad.
That's a good son. Yeah, you're right.
That's a good ass son.
That's a good son.
a
He
good
convinced you
son.
to be Granddad in the Boondocks. Yeah, nobody else could have played that role. Nobody.
I can't even think.
Especially like I'll never forget the first time watching the Boondocks, not knowing that he was on the show, hearing his voice, instantly recognizing it. That he has that type of voice is instantly recognizable, and then finding out, oh, Regina King is playing,
Huey and Riley,
and then automatically thinking like, oh my God, they did Friday together.
They did
like,
Friday,
They
yep.
were definitely in the same movie.
Crazy, bro.
She was his daughter in
Yep.
Friday, and I was just like, oh my God, like this. It's stuff like that it's just too good. You can't write stuff like that, and it just makes so much sense. And like John Witherspoon, man, he gave us so much great stuff. He made us laugh so much. He made us joyful. He made us just enjoy all of these things that we watched in him, man. It's a tremendous loss, I would say. And I think, really the whole industry has recognized that like he's a comedic legend, a genius, and
I really
it's
am
a shame.
curious of what's going to happen with Boondocks 4 or next season of the Boondocks.
you're right. What are they?
Because I guess technically by time wise, he's probably recorded some stuff, right? Like
I would think that they've got.
and I guess the question is how much?
Yeah.
Because you can't replace him.
No. Yeah.
So the only thing you can do, honestly, is you got to take him off the show somehow.
Yeah.
That's in my mind. If I'm Aaron Magruder, that's what I have to do. I have to find a way to potentially take him off the show.
Yeah. I think that's the best.
And that's
way to
the
go
best way
about
to
it.
do it. His legacy is already there.
Yeah.
You've done what you came to do, man.
Yeah.
And
I'm sure they're gonna do a really nice and touching tribute.
I feel like it's going to be amazing.
yeah,
whatever
when
it
the show
is.
airs. Yeah.
Robert Jebediah Freeman. I have
John
no words for
Witherspoon,
that, bro.
man.
That hits harder than people even realize.
Yeah.
What the Boondocks meant by itself.
Absolutely. Well, we will say from two black nerds to John Witherspoon and his family, rest in peace, rest in power to him. Just an icon and a legend all around, and a king in every aspect. We will miss you greatly, and thank you for everything that you've given us. It's just young black boys and girls watching you grow up and feeling like you were one of our own, feeling like you were a part of our family. It's a lot of really special memories that we'll always have, and that's enough. You know, I think that's enough that he left behind such an incredible legacy we'll always be able to hold on to. So shout out to John Witherspoon, man, and his legacy.
For real.
With that said, we got a few other things to sort of get to round out this week's episode of Two Black Nerds. A lot is always happening, man. So I think, we'll go from one black comedic legend to another. Eddie Murphy is back, man. Back in a big way. If you don't know, you should know. Dolomite Is My Name has dropped on Netflix.
Go watch that thing.
It's the latest movie from Eddie Murphy. Oh, that's all I can say is watch it. Just watch it, right?
Yeah. So this is the first R-rated movie that he has been in since 1999's life. And he actually dedicated this movie to Charlie Murphy.
Has it been that long?
He hasn't been in an R-rated movie since 1999.
Oh, my goodness.
Isn't that crazy to hear?
20 years R-rated movie from Eddie Murphy? I mean, that's insane. And he dedicated to
Charlie Murphy, yep.
Wow, man.
It's just crazy.
It's
so
really crazy.
Dolomite, if no one has ever seen Dolomite, by the way, Dolomite is on Amazon Prime right now. If you have Amazon Prime.
The original Dolomite,
the
right?
original
Yeah.
Dolomite.
This is actually based on a true story.
Dolomite Is My Name is actually a biographical film.
This is not just like some over the top.
Yeah, this ain't something
movie.
random.
This really happened.
This is an actual biopic.
Yeah.
And so Dolomite, for those who don't know, is one of the greatest blaxploitation films of all time.
For sure.
If you ever seen Black Dynamite, it's pretty much based off Dolomite. So a lot of people, when they hear blaxploitation, a lot of people say Shaft created it, right? But there's all these movies in between, right, there that were blaxploitation films, but they're all kind of leveled, right? Like they all have like this seriousness to them, and they're all, they're blaxploitation. But Dolomite was the silliest,
just most
kung fu badass,
yeah.
over the top, and this is where not only again Black Dynamite is born, and people using clips from Dolomite in their songs, like all the time. Yeah. But in fact, if you ever listen to Room 25, No Name uses a clip from this movie at the beginning of the song Blaxploitation.
What happened to my $100, Joe? Nigga, did you take my money?
That's right, little bitch.
This is also the birth of Dolomite Is My Name.
Yep.
Again, Dolomite, Rudy Ray Moore. Just an amazing film.
Yeah,
man.
It's really an amazing film. And, Rudy Ray Moore, he hasn't been talked about as much because, it is, blaxploitation movies when they came out, obviously they fulfilled much more of a niche, sort of genre film. Like, they obviously were targeted to black moviegoers. And so Rudy Ray Moore, he has an incredible story. I think, this movie, it checks so many boxes. Like, the cast is incredible. It's stacked.
Wild.
I'm not even gonna go through it. You should just watch it.
Just watch the movie.
How many legends are in this movie? And not only is it hilarious, I laughed legitimately so many times throughout the movie.
The whole, bro.
But also the story is inspirational too.
It is,
right?
especially. So I purposely watched the first Dolomite and Dolomite Is My Name back to back, or pretty much back to back, right? Maybe like a day difference, and after you watch the first Dolomite, you're like, this is the greatest.
It's the greatest shit I've ever seen in my life.
Film I've ever seen. But when you see the actual reasoning behind it, and Dolomite Is My Name, it really pulls everything together. From understanding that Rudy Ray Moore wasn't at the best spot in his life, right? Where apparently there was still this gaze in movies, no matter what kind of movie it was, that you couldn't be a certain weight in a movie, right? And a lot of people, I don't know, he just wanted to do what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was low budget at the time.
Right.
Because I'm watching an old movie in my mind, right? I'm like, oh, everything's going to be low budget. But no, apparently this is the lowest of low budget films that you can get at the time, too.
Yeah.
And 100%. It was just putting all those pieces together and watching Dolomite Is My Name was definitely rewarding.
Yeah, it's a movie about making movies, right?
It
and
really
how difficult it is to make movies,
Yeah.
especially when people don't believe in your own vision, right? And it talks so much about that. But Rudy Ray Moore is a man who had incredible perseverance.
Yeah.
He believed in himself. He believed in his vision, and he didn't stop until he saw it through. And I think that's ultimately, that's what I walked away from it with,
Yeah.
even beyond the comedy and the laughs and the over-the-top nature of Dolomite and, what that character sort of represents on screen, just behind the scenes, like what he went through to get this made. I respect it so much, and I learned so much about him as a person. And I just got to shout out Eddie Murphy, too. Like, he wanted to make this, he tried making this movie for 15 years.
Crazy.
He wanted to make this movie a long time ago, but Rudy Ray Moore, he initially was just like, nah, nobody's going to go see that. Nobody wants to see, me talk about my life and how I tried to make this movie. And Eddie made a funny joke that when he initially asked, it was around that time where he made like Pluto Nash. And so
Oh, wow.
Rudy Ray Moore was probably like,
Yeah,
no, you're not hot right now. Like, I'm
Like-
not about to do this. But like, I think this speaks to like where Eddie is in his career. Like, it's funny because it's sort of, it doesn't necessarily mimic where Eddie is in his career right now, but I saw some parallels, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I definitely
Easy.
saw some parallels with where Eddie has been on his, sort of movie career journey and where he is now and where he plans to go in the next couple of years compared to Rudy Ray Moore because, Eddie, like, I mean, the fact that you just said that he hasn't made a rated R movie in 20 years is crazy. That's really where he shined a lot in his comedy, right? Like making like rated R comedies, adult comedies. And he's done a lot of different projects over the past like 10, 15 years. A lot of them have not been successful.
Right.
But we're starting to see this resurgence of Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, like if this is any indication of what he's about to bring us
He's on his way.
these coming years,
Yeah.
I'm excited
He's
for
on
this
his
resurgence.
way.
I really am.
Saturday Night Live is coming in December. He's hosting that for the first time since he left the show in the 80s, in the early 80s. Saturday Night Live really kind of kickstarted his career. He saved the show. A lot of people recognize that he single-handedly saved that show because the ratings were terrible.
Yeah.
Nobody watched it, but then this young upstart, Eddie Murphy, came along and completely saved the show. He'll be back in December. He has Coming to America 2 coming out next year.
It's one of my favorite movies ever.
Yeah,
So I feel like if it's anything like Dolomite, the energy.
Yeah.
Oh man, we're in for a
I
treat.
think it will be because it's the same director, so it's going to be, I think, a lot of that same spirit. I'm really, I have high hopes for it.
Especially a lot of people are talking about some nods for Dolomite potentially.
I wouldn't be surprised.
A couple for your considerations, man.
I wouldn't be surprised, man. It is really good.
It's really, really, really good.
And then ultimately, like Eddie's not been shy about this. This is leading to a return to stand-up comedy, which he has also not done.
Hey, I'm
in
ready.
30, 35 years.
Yeah, he's been talking about some of his old stand-up jokes, which he's matured from, right? Like he's been looking at some stuff, and he's kind of gave us some insight. Like, man, I wish I wouldn't have said that back then.
Right.
But he acknowledges it, right?
Yeah.
Every comedian doesn't do that, and not only is he acknowledging, like, man, I was kind of problematic a little bit, but he's
Sure.
like doing it again, like he's coming back. You know what I mean? With all those thoughts in mind, it's some more mature comedy, man. And
Yeah.
I'm excited for
I
it.
tell you what, if Eddie Murphy goes on a comedy tour,
Well,
my ass is there.
boy.
I'm telling you, guaranteed.
Right
Like
there.
I will do whatever it takes to get
Oh,
a
easy.
ticket into there. So that's what we think about Dolomite Is My Name. It's on Netflix right now, so there's
Watch
really
it.
no reason not to watch
Just
it.
please watch it. Again, if you need to, watch Dolomite first on Prime Video. It is, I'm telling you, it's super rewarding.
It's worth it.
Movie's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, it's definitely worth it.
But Dolomite Is My Name, y'all.
100%. Go check it out. The next thing we're going to talk about, Joker.
Oh, man.
Oh my God.
We back
is
talking about Joker.
making so much money at the box office.
Crazy.
Joker is now officially the highest grossing rated R movie of all time.
Of all time. Think about that, y'all.
It passed Deadpool 1 and 2 last weekend as the highest grossing rated R film ever. Currently, as of the recording of this episode of Two Black Nerds, it's sitting at $934 million. That's a lot of money.
That's
now,
a lot of money.
What I will say about this, the reason that we're talking about this, a lot of movies nowadays, because of just like the economic society that we live in and how movies are made and how they're paid for and the cost of movie tickets, more movies now than ever make over $1 billion.
Yeah.
Ticket prices have increased.
Which is crazy because the statistic is that less people go to the movies.
Yeah, and that's proven. Less people go to the movies,
but everything's so inflated now.
Everything is so inflated,
yeah.
so more and more movies every single year make $1 billion because you're paying, premium prices for 3D and IMAX and Dolby and things like that. So
Right.
that just shows that. So a lot of movies have made $1 billion. I think we're at like 42 or 43 movies that have made over $1 billion, right?
Yeah.
But the key difference, obviously, the rated R is like a crazy thing in itself. No movie has ever even approached $1 billion, and it looks like that this will very shortly. The fact that it cost somewhere in the area of $55 million to $75 million.
Yeah.
It cost so little to make comparatively to these other movies. Most movies that make $1 billion plus cost upwards of $200 million or more.
Yeah, there's always crazy budgets associated with them.
Like these are huge movies with huge effects and huge casts, and they're typically rated from G to PG-13. They're 4 quadrant films that appeal to all audiences. Basically, everybody can go see them.
Right.
Joker is not that. It's strictly rated R. It's not a light rated R. It's rated R for sure.
Oh, it's definitely rated R.
And it's made a ridiculous amount of money. This movie is on pace to quite possibly be the most profitable movie ever. Quite possibly. Like
that's crazy to think about.
When you technically break it down, like, okay, you take a look at Endgame, the highest grossing movie ever, almost $2.8 billion, right? Sure. However, the movie cost at least $350 million to make.
Yeah.
That doesn't include marketing, which is another about $200 million.
Yeah.
So we're looking at an investment of almost $600 million, right? And then you add on just like different breakdowns of like who gets cuts on things, all of this, different types of stuff. So yes, it was profitable for sure because you make a ridiculous amount. However, when you compare it also again to Joker, which made 934, but it only cost about 55 to 75 million to make, we're looking at about the same profit margin at that respect. So like it might go on to be the most profitable if it continues to rack up as much money as it has, if it crosses $1 billion and keeps going.
Oh, yeah, because it's about to get a second run, too, for this Christmas season.
Yeah.
It's about to be in probably 70 millimeters everywhere.
Award season, all that
award
stuff.
Season,
like, they just released the 4-year considerations. Like, it's going to be in theaters, I think, well into January.
Yeah.
I think it'll still be in theaters well
I think
into
we
January.
could be looking at even 1.3.
Man. That would be crazy. They could re-release it, maybe add on like something else. I don't know. Like they could do a lot with it, but it's just crazy, man, that we live in this time, right? Like a lot of people doubted this movie. A lot of people said, "Oh, a Joker standalone movie without Batman."
I started like that.
Yeah, like
when I first heard it, I was like, "Huh?"
Like no Batman, that won't work. Oh, standalone Joker talking about his origin, nobody wants to see that. Oh, it's not connected to any sort of cinematic universe. It's a standalone movie.
It's by itself.
It's by itself. What? A solo movie? What a concept. That won't work. Like, and it's rated R. Like, there were so many things working against it, and here we are. In its 5th week, has made almost $1 billion.
Crazy.
It's really crazy to see. I
can't even think about that. It's only been a month.
It's only been a month. Yeah, that's the thing. Like you mentioned, like it's got a lot of legs. Like we've seen it.
A month from tomorrow.
Oh yeah, that's right. Like a month from tomorrow, it was what, October 5th? Yeah, that was when he
crazy.
Yeah, so in a month, it's made a ridiculous amount of money, and it will be around for a long time. But I think it just, it just goes to show with like these comic book films, like you can take risks, you can do things differently. Right. You do not have to be connected to some grand cinematic universe.
Yeah, it's okay.
You do not have to have 35 heroes in one movie. Like you can do different things and take risks like this, and it could potentially be successful. And I mean, Joker is like one of the most recognizable villains of all time. We can't
we get that.
Yeah, we can't underscore that. Like that definitely plays a part in it.
Yeah, that's why I think we haven't had our whole spiel on HBO Max yet. Ooh. But this is why I think that HBO Max is going through with these DC movies, but not in big theaters, right? They're like, let's put them on the streaming service.
Yeah.
Because we know this character is not, these characters that we want to do like Joker aren't as big as Joker.
Right.
So I think they're like understanding, one, that they do have a gold mine in these style of movies, but I think they also understand they might not be able to perform.
Sure.
And I don't know, Captain Boomerang.
Yeah. If we did that, boy. The mass appeal is not gonna reach what Joker will reach, right? But you can still find an avenue and find a lane where it will work, right? It will like do well. So I just wanted to touch on that, man. Like it's ridiculous. It's really like $934 million, and the movie didn't cost any more than $75 million to make. It just really
amazing.
Blows my mind. I think Deadline or one of the trades, like it was about a week ago when it crossed like 850 or 860, saying that like the profits, like pure profit, after revenue is gonna be like in excess of $500 million.
This makes a lot of sense to me though, right? Because like a lot of people will always bring up, I don't know, just there's a lot of filmmakers that make excuses for big budget films. Like that movie's only good because it got all the money.
Yeah, right.
But Not necessarily,
Not
right?
necessarily, yeah.
Like,
this
so
proves
a lot
that
of times it's you, it's your how you choose your artistic expression. You
Yeah.
get as good as you can at your craft,
Yeah.
and everything else will follow.
Yeah.
And I think again, this is the entire what's the entourage
Yeah.
of the Joker crew, right? Like this is just them doing what they do,
Right. And a movie, just the bottom line, a movie is not going to make this much money if people don't like it.
right?
And if they're not going to see it even more than once, right?
Yeah.
So,
Again, shout out to Dolomite.
Yeah.
It's like one of the most low budget movies ever, and it's one of the most iconic black movies we've ever seen.
yep, 100%. So, Joker is doing all of the business, taking everybody's money. That's probably why some of these other movies are not performing well, because people just keep going to see Joker. So
Yeah.
it adds up, y'all. So we'll see what the Oscar race looks like. Moving on next, we're gonna stick with comic book movies. They finally, thank God, announced a sequel to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. It's coming April 8th, 2022.
Yes,
we're gonna
sir.
get a sequel. Oh man, that movie. I mean, it's one of the best comic book movies ever made in my eyes.
I'm just already one of the biggest Spider-Man fans in the world, and so you give us one of the best animated Spider-Man movies. You give us one of the best superhero movies.
Yeah.
You give us one of the best movies
Yeah.
ever made.
No, for sure.
And you're giving us another one.
Yeah.
I'm just excited.
I'm here for it.
There's really not much for me to say.
Yeah, I'm here for it.
I don't know what it'll be about, who it's surrounding. You know, I do hope Spider-Man 2099 is in it. My boy Miguel,
Oh, they got you, especially after that post credits,
especially
right?
after the post credits.
Yeah.
I really do hope my boy Miguel's in it. But
Yeah.
I'm just excited. If it's anything like the first one, we're in for a treat.
Bring it on is what I'd say. Bring on Into the Spider-Verse. Can't wait. April 8th, 2022. I'd be remiss if I did not mention that Black Panther comes out 1 month after.
This is about to be the blackest.
Do you understand?
Well, I guess if Miles is the center of Into Spider-Verse 2, which we believe he is.
better be.
He better be.
Yeah,
which we
like,
believe
he
he
better
is.
be.
I mean, they could do like a Miguel, right?
Yeah.
Because it's still maybe intro to the Spider-Verse. I don't know
Yeah.
if that's like still the tagline.
Right. But we love
Spider-Man intro to-
love Miles at this point.
Yeah, but we
right?
do love Miles. It's
love
like
Miles.
if we don't get some more Miles,
Yeah.
we're wreaking havoc in the streets.
I trust them, but regardless,
I want a live action.
Oh, it deserves it.
But again, I think they're just waiting.
Yeah. Waiting to see, and maybe
Yeah.
we'll venture into
Tom
that
Holland ain't
territory.
old enough yet.
Oh,
We need
nah.
Tom Holland to be like 10 years older.
Yeah, late 30s, kind of getting there.
But I mean, they can make a case for it.
I will say what I still enjoy, just like getting on Twitter and just seeing like the Twitter account for the movie.
Yeah.
Like every day we like learn new details just about like how dope the first one is.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this many pixels are in this frame. Or-
Man, if you pause this frame right here, you can see that Stan Lee is on the train.
you can see every bit of Jack Kirby in this frame of the movie. Like I get a kick out of that stuff every day. I'm like, oh,
it's
damn,
amazing,
that
man.
movie is so good.
I really love that movie.
Yeah.
Again, this is another one of those times where I've been telling Miles Morales, people about Miles Morales for years. And then here comes this movie where he's finally personified.
Yep.
Same thing happened with Black Panther for me.
Yep.
And it's just dope to see, man.
100%. Can't wait. April 8th, 2022. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 2.
I'm in there.
We're ready for it. Final thing we're going to touch on today. Got some video game stuff, man. We watched
boy.
some trailers. Oh my god! what are video games on nowadays? This on some other shit.
They just
I'm
movies.
I'm not right. They just full-fledged movies.
Video
at this point.
games or playable movies?
No, seriously. So, which one should we talk about first? Overwatch or Diablo?
Talk about Overwatch
Let's
first.
do Overwatch. So we just watched this trailer. I haven't played the first Overwatch.
Yeah.
I know you have, but
yeah.
I watched the trailer and I really enjoyed it.
Huge Overwatch guy.
Yeah.
I actually played on my college's Overwatch team the first summer that it came out.
Y'all had a team for
Oh, yeah.
Overwatch?
Mhm.
Oh, that's legit.
on PC, yeah.
Oh, that's legit. I like that.
We got like 11th out of 50 something, which isn't bad.
That's
It
not
was
bad
like
at all.
56 or something like
Yeah.
that. We was cold, man. But again, this 2016. I think Overwatch came out summer 2016.
So it's
This
been a
game is a little over 3 years old now.
been a minute.
And a lot of people have dropped off from the game. It's just, games can only last so long without new content. And so here we are. BlizzCon happened this past weekend.
Yep.
And they have dropped these trailers. And the Overwatch 2 trailer was crazy.
It was so good.
There were so many people tweeting and just super excited about this new Overwatch. If you haven't, it's a real quick. I guess it's not quick. It's an 8-minute cinematic.
You're right.
It's an 8-minute cinematic on Overwatch 2. Even if you don't like the game, if you don't like video games, it's still a really cool. I would even say adorable or action-packed small 8-minute clip that you can watch to get a sense of this world. But I'm sure my fellow Overwatch players out there are excited to get this. What really should be an expansion. They call it Overwatch 2, but really they're just adding a bunch of stuff onto the first game.
Gotcha.
Which a lot of us are like, why not just call it Overwatch and then put a name on it, like Overwatch Resurgence or something like that.
Yeah.
But they put a number on it, which is still weird, but it's whatever. But again, we're super excited for Overwatch 2, man.
It just looks so much fun.
It is.
It looks so much fun.
It's a great game.
Yeah, it's
It
a really
is.
great
It's
game.
Multiplayer, you play with so many friends.
Yeah.
Most multiplayer games, say you play, I don't know, 2K. If you're on the playground, it's usually 3v3.
Right.
But Overwatch again is 6v6. So
That's massive.
Yeah, you can get a lot of friends on at one time and nobody can get left out. Versus like games in the past, which is like 4v4 or stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. On the complete opposite end of the spectrum,
Oh man.
Diablo 4.
So Blizzard has like this just different ends of the world.
like nothing is alike, right?
Nothing
No
is
two
alike.
things that they make are
They
alike.
got like this Warner Brothers thing where it's like,
Yeah.
we have both Looney Tunes and The Conjuring
We have the scariest shit ever in your childhood all in one.
all in one.
Yeah.
And so Diablo 4 trailer drops. Again, we have this another crazy cinematic. It's about 9 minutes. Again, go watch it.
Oh my God.
If you're a super scaredy cat, maybe don't watch it.
Yeah.
But it's one of the best cinematic trailers I've ever seen in my entire life, y'all. Like
That's not an exaggeration.
That's not an exaggeration.
I agree with that. It is one of the best. It is beautifully rendered. It is so gorgeous. There were several times, you heard me say it, there were several times I'm like, that looks so real. Like
was-
the pores on that person's skin.
Yeah.
I see every single pore. It was crazy, the detail.
Hey, Blizzard.
How cinematic it was.
Blizzard was just doing what they do best, man. Blizzard actually been doing this for a long time. They've done this with World of Warcraft cinematics, but this is Diablo cinematic, man.
Hashtag they know what they're doing.
They know it's something else. Especially Diablo's been around since 1997 or 8 or something crazy.
I played the first couple.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
been a while.
And it's me and my boy beat Diablo 3 last year actually. PlayStation was having a sale. We were just like, let's buy it, and we beat it in like 3 days.
Just after it. What I will say, that shit was frightening. It
Oh,
is a
the
scary
trailer?
trailer. It is. I'm telling you, like
good, y'all.
if you easily get scared of stuff, you might want to think twice. I mean, I encourage watching it because it just looks so good. But by the end of it, oh my goodness,
It is wild.
I was shook.
Just again, it's only 8 minutes. Just again, if you've never even played a Diablo, watch Diablo, just watch it.
Just still
because
watch it.
it's good content.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I think that's the message. It's just good content.
Just
So
good
it's
content.
worth the watch.
Yeah,
Well, y'all, we did a lot today.
a lot of talking.
We had a lot of talking, a lot to get through. As always, man, we really appreciate you guys rocking with us.
Every time.
It's been another great week of bringing you guys really good and meaningful content from
Yes,
Two
yes.
Black Nerds. I think I can speak for both of us. We really enjoy doing this.
Oh yeah.
It's a lot of fun. It's really reassuring to know that people are tuning in and listening.
Oh, for sure.
Please also, feel free to take that next step. Like we mentioned at the top of the episode, leave us a review, leave us a 5-star rating. We will really appreciate it. And hit us up on social, man. Send us a DM or a comment or a like or whatever you can to just show your support and interact with us on Twitter, on Instagram. I think we're pretty friendly.
Yeah, we're always
We like to talk.
around.
Yeah.
Making nerd comments on any and everything.
Oh yeah,
That's
man.
what we do.
We're always just like throwing random stuff out there. We might do a poll here and there. I know we got a poll going up right now.
We do got a
right?
poll going up
Yeah,
right now,
that
trying
was-
to figure out, what people want to see in future Two Black Nerd content, man.
Yeah.
Whether it's topics or this idea of the Two Black Nerds movie club.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
definitely talking about that. I think we're quite serious about making that happen, man. You want to give them a little teaser? What that
Yeah,
might
so the Two Black Nerds movie club is an idea that we came up with to potentially find a movie that everyone can stream at the same time,
Yep.
whether that's Netflix or your Amazons or your HBOs, something where everyone can potentially get their hands on, and we literally just watch the movie at the same time.
Yep.
It could be like a 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock on a Friday night, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's in, grab your popcorn, and we're like, all right, everybody start your movie at 7. And we just live tweet about the movie. It could be a classic movie. Like we talked about, Love Jones is on Netflix right now. Paid in Full's on Netflix right now. Even a Dolomite, right? Even a Dolomite is my name kind of type thing. And it could be something new, right? It could be something Stranger Things 4 then came out.
Right. Yeah. Whatever the new season is, we can talk about it.
Yeah, and we can literally live tweet together with the hashtag 2BlackNerd Movie Club, or the hashtag can be whatever. But
100%.
I really just want people to engage in movies together, because we're all spread out again, throughout the country. We all can't just get up and go to the movies.
Yeah.
A lot of people like to stay in their homes nowadays, and I think there's still a way that we can all engage with each other while doing that very thing.
Yeah, can still create community, right? Around this thing that we love called movies, right? So we definitely want to try to do that soon. If you have any movie suggestions or ideas that you want to send us for what could possibly be a part of this movie club, please send it our way. We're always going to take suggestions and consider them. And again, like, we want to make it be accessible to as many people as possible. So if you can find something on, whether it be Netflix or Hulu or Amazon or HBO, something that most people can get to and stream, let us know, man, and we'll probably get that Kickstarter real soon before the year's over.
And you never know, it could grow into something else, right?
It could. It definitely
could.
could. The one other thing we definitely got coming that I want to, just sort of give people a heads up about, we will be doing a top 25 movies of the decade. We are going to get into it. As I said that, I instantly just increased my anxiety level by 10 to even think about having to pick just 25 movies of the decade. We've already had plenty of discussions about it off air. We've started to make some preliminary words. We started to make a list, y'all, and it's going to be coming real soon before the year is over. We're going to do the top 25 movies of the decade from Two Black Nerds.
Oh, and hip-hop albums.
Oh, yeah, let me not forget hip-hop albums.
And R&B albums. Again, y'all know I'm a huge music head. We got to figure it out.
I'm going to have to run, I'm going to throw you the alley on R&B, because I ain't listening as much.
It's cool.
But,
I can figure it out.
Yeah, we're gonna make it happen. We got some lists, man. It's the end of the decade. It's the end of 2019.
Of the decade. If y'all have any other lists y'all want us to make that's specific, or y'all just like, man, I wonder what kind of list they come up with here.
Yeah.
Just let us know.
Stress us out more so we can try to come up with this.
Right.
Like,
it's going to happen, though.
Yeah, for sure. So
soon.
Let us know what you think about that. We'll be sharing that out for sure, and definitely give us your thoughts and opinions on what those lists should look like, whether you agree or disagree, or you think it's trash or whatever. Yeah, that's all cool, man. We just want to create the conversation. So we'll be coming with that real soon here before the year is over. And then, of course, we also have to break down, like, the best movies of the year and the best music of the year, too, like of 2019 in and of itself.
These are going to be long episodes.
Yeah. Get ready. Strap in. They will be coming to you. We're going to have to do probably a couple of these, and then definitely bring it to you in a meaningful way, so we give everybody enough credit that we can give them. So I think that's it for me, man. That's it for episode 5 of Two Black Nerds, ain't it? That's all we got.
I believe so, man. Again, we appreciate y'all. We love y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Especially the week to week listeners, man. It's actually kind of crazy to see.
It's people hitting me up, letting me know, man. Yeah, I heard the newest episode. I'm caught up, and I'm like, that's what's up, man. That's what's up. And we even got some global listeners that we looked at the stats, man.
Somebody was in Mexico and from the UK.
Shout out to y'all.
We have a South Korean listener.
South Korea is listening to Two Black Nerds.
That is wild.
Did you hear that? The Blurs from South, like, they're listening.
Yeah, but it has been amazing. Thanks for the community, y'all. Thanks for allowing us to occupy this space of Black Nerdom. So again, we thank y'all for tuning in on this week's Two Black. Whoa, wow.
Words are not a thing right now.
So again, I thank you for tuning in.
We've been recording for 90 plus minutes, y'all. It's a lot. It's a lot of work here. You just start saying anything.
Thank you for tuning in on this week's episode of Two Black Nerds, where we're too black,
too nerdy.
And that's it, y'all. Peace.
I can't put no threats in the air.